This episode is sponsored by Agent CRM. If you're in sales and tired of paying 3, 4, or 5 different companies for your email, CRM, funnels, phone, follow-up automation, check out Agent CRM. It's an all-in-one tool that combines all that you need to reach out, nurture, and close your clients. They've got weekly support calls so you can get up and running in no time. Get a free 14-day trial by going to the link below in the show notes. Hey everyone, this is Dan with the Intentional Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm here with a very special guest. She is an attorney just like me, but pivoted out and now is a coach in productivity and accountability. Please welcome to the show, Jodi Lasky.
Thanks, Dan.
So I didn't really do your introduction justice. So can you share a little bit about your background and how you got to what you're doing today?
Happy to. It was quite a circuitous route. I am in the DC area where every other person is an attorney or at least went to law school. Spent most of my career in the defense and government sector. Have a degree in maritime law. My joke was always I'm a maritime lawyer who hates boats and never really wanted to practice law. So I spent a decade working with the Army instead. After that, I started my own tech startup, thinking that surely what I knew from my government startup would apply, and it didn't at all. Learned all the lessons the hard way, met a great group of friends in the startup community, and sort of fell into coaching. Coached up until the pandemic, which destroyed a lot of things for a lot of people. So I have no room to complain. And I've been doing some other work on the side for the past few years. And now it's time to get back into coaching.
Who would imagine that an attorney transitioning out would have the hubris to know everything going into the next industry, right?
Shocking. And surely the military sector where I was working with 1979 technology would have a lot to do with the startup world. So, yes, a little bit of hubris. But I read a lot of books. Yeah.
Sure.
Also not enough. So.
Well, I'm very excited for the topic we're going to talk about today, because I think for a lot of business owners, especially, for me in particular, I run to this, like, I kind of know what to do. I just kind of get out of my own way into doing it. And so, accountability as a business owner, entrepreneur really kind of goes a long way, at least in my experience. Can you share a little bit about how you address this particular issue with your coaching clients, and how do you help them get more things done, and how to get them faster?
A lot of it is about staying focused, which we all have trouble doing, and remembering what is important. So what is important on a weekly basis, as a general rule, is based on work I have my clients do either the Friday before or the week before. And unless, like, the world will end if you change your plan, you don't change the plan. My philosophies are based in agile product development, where once you decide what's going into a scrum, that's what goes into the scrum. Anything else gets added to the backlog and prioritized for inclusion on the next scrum. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, you mentioned agile and scrum, which for those of us who aren't familiar with these particular terms, can you just briefly describe how these play into accountability?
Absolutely. So for many, many years, the way everything was built, from software to traditional manufacturing, was something that we call waterfall program management. People set up a program plan or project plan, a schedule. This is what's going to happen at each point in time, and plan the whole project out years in advance. And anyone who's ever worked with one of those multi-year plans knows they don't survive contact with with reality ever. So about 20 years ago, people started developing what's called agile. And there's a bunch of different forms of agile, but it comes down to knowing where you want to go long term,
Hmm.
breaking it down into smaller and smaller pieces, and prioritizing what you can get done in what's called a scrum, which in product development is usually about 2 weeks. For my clients, I have them break it down into 1 week. So if
So,
you can't do it in this week, it doesn't go on the list.
oh, okay, okay. So, would you say it's kind of even breaking it down to smaller chunks
Mhm.
with obviously with the end goal in mind, but whatever milestone one is, milestone two, etc.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite books on accountability is called The 12-Week Year.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read this,
I have
but
not.
so the premise of the book is you can instead of really thinking about goal setting as far as in a year, you can squish them into 12 weeks, and they have a particular method to doing it. But one of the methods or the strategies in there is for accountability, right? um, um, Chunking up higher is, what do you need to do in the 12 weeks to achieve your goal, and you break it down on a week by week basis. And in there it says, you don't have to achieve like 100% of your tasks. Really, you really want to do at set, because it's really hard on a day-to-day basis to maintain like 100% effort. So for them, they say, it says work on an average of a 70% success task rate. But also part of it is accountability. And they talk about getting into groups, right? Because there's some psychology behind accountability with a third party, and now you've got to talk to them. And shame is kind of like, very powerful motivator type of thing. But in a sense, the book says like, hey, it's really not to shame you, but it's really just to see where you're at, and essentially motivate you on a higher level to get these particular tasks done. So what would you say how would you is that something you would agree with, like third party accountability? Is that something that you've seen that works better with some of your clients, or are you kind of seeing a range of personalities where you can just lock someone in a room and they can get everything done, no problem?
So I'm an accountability coach. So most of my clients come to me because they need that third party. But if you look at the work Gretchen Rubin has done,
Mm-hmm.
she's written The Four Tendencies and a couple of other books. She breaks people out into one of four categories based on those who are internally motivated, they can set their own deadlines and meet it, and those who are externally motivated, they need that third party accountability. And those who, none of that stuff will work. So it's a yes, no, and the four different quadrants.
Mm-hmm.
So for half of those personality types, what you're talking about works. For the other half, all they need to do is set down their goals for the week, break it down, and they know what to do and they'll get it done because they have made that commitment to themselves. I
Yeah.
wish I were that type. I truly wish I were. I know I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So I have my own coaches for these things, and that's why my clients come to me.
I think I don't know what program it is, but it's like first step is recognizing that you have a problem type of
Yep.
deal. And so
Yes.
I think for a lot of business owners that is probably crucial, right? Because I think at some level they know accountability, but they may not know what motivates them to get things done. Like the different systems. Like for example, um, I I obviously, like everyone, I've been trying to lose weight, and so you know, trainers, things like that, diets, and the one thing that has worked for me was when I was working in an office with a handful of people, maybe about 5 people, and they brought in this health coach, and we did a health challenge, right? So every week there was a weigh in, there was a prize at the end, things like that, And I have never gotten the same results than I had in when I had that particular um, situation. And so now I'm like on the hunt, right? It's like, okay, how do I now work from, obviously with the pandemic is harder too, because kind of everyone's work from home and you kind of don't get the same office dynamics that you get, you know, seven or 10 years ago. So how does, aside from working with someone like you, but how does someone kind of like maintain this motivation or accountability even day after day?
So some of it is there are a lot of apps out there for that. And a lot of it is about gamification.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so if you were, obviously, you're not going to go into an office now and compete with your coworkers and see what they're doing and they see what you're doing. But if you can know, well, I did X last week, I know I can do that again. Or I want to see me do better. And you're competing with yourself. That's a big one for me. I
Mm.
love competing with myself. So I keep all kinds of data from year over year and month over month so I can see, maybe getting older, but I can still do what I did 10 years ago. I can do more. I can do, or I've gotten more done working less hours, and that's
Mm.
even better. Like I'm no longer doing the 20-hour work days, and look at what I'm how much progress I'm making. So that ability to compete, whether it's with myself or with other people,
Mm.
apps for gamification, that is their foundation.
One of my favorite apps is one called Habitica. I don't know if you heard this one.
I've heard
And
of it.
so, right. So I grew up 80s and 90s. I grew up playing video games, right? And I got into role playing games a little bit later. But the premise of that one is you're kind of on a journey, right? And you set out, you know, you have these daily goals, daily habits that you want to do, and then these longer term goals like, hey, I want to save enough money to buy a car, right? So you hit this one, there's kind of a big reward. Um, Obviously, like most things, I start off gung ho doing everything, but that motivation ran away. And so in this particular program, your character will die if
Mm-hmm.
you don't keep up with the daily tasks. But you know, I think gamification is a really cool idea that will allow people to do what's necessary as far as their daily task goes. And are you seeing some of your clients use apps like that where it's kind of game based, or it's just because really more kind of just hard number crunching where she's this and this?
Oh yeah, I've seen the gamut, and I generally tell my clients that they need to find what works for them
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
terms of that because it is so individualized. Like
Mm-hmm.
like for me, from the health standpoint, I like seeing my Samsung watch tell me that I've hit my goal every day for whatever number of days. I like seeing those numbers rack up, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what does it more than like keeping a fake character alive
Mm-hmm.
would
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
about knowing really what motivates you. And like, I have one particular habit I've been doing. I've been journaling every day since July 4th, 2020. I am terrified to miss a day because I
Mm-hmm.
will never hit that number again. So I don't miss a day. No matter what else is going on,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how late my flight got in the night before, whatever, first thing the next morning, I'm at it.
Along those lines, can you share a little bit, or if you have thoughts on um, quality versus just doing it, right? Because with journals, you know, we can write everything from a very one or two short sentence and or a very long essay. So how does that kind of play into hitting your daily tasks every day?
Well, I follow a specific methodology called Morning Pages, written in The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and that's 3 pages a day. Because the one or two sentences, the whole point of going 3 pages is to push you to the point of uncomfortable.
Mm.
Like anyone can say anything for a page
Mm-hmm.
without getting to anything. takes about that page and a half mark to get to where whatever it is that you're trying to not start saying, you start saying.
Yeah, and I think that it kind of goes back to the idea of SMART goals, right? It's like really stretching your ability to, like you said, get out of your comfort zone. Like anyone can do one or two sentences, right? But for us to stretch ourselves to write at least 3 pages, then it becomes 4 pages, then it becomes 5 pages, then obviously over a course of a year, it's unconscious ability to write 3 pages, and sometimes
Yep.
3 pages not enough to get down your
Right.
thoughts.
Well, and there are days even now where I'm like, oh, and it's total inane, means nothing, anything. Just get the work, get any
Mm-hmm.
words on the page to move on with my day.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, but it's about continuing to do it and push myself to do it because of the days we're at that page and a half. I begin to admit the things I didn't want to say to begin with.
Very poignant. Very poignant. So, kind of along the lines of accountability, it can be very nuanced, but it's getting more things done and faster. So, how does accountability play into getting more things done and getting them done faster?
Part of it is being the personality type that says, I'm going to have to admit to this person whether or not I did what I said I would. The other part is working with your coach to know what is important and understand how you can use your time most wisely. Um, I had I have a client who recently was talking about, do I want to raise money? Do I want to just keep building? Well, what would you use the money for? X, Y, and Z, all of which turned into things that she could hire a VA to do for $40 an hour, get it off her plate, and also not take in VC money and give up a large portion of her. Like she was making it into something much bigger than what it would be. And okay, so if you hire a VA, what does that do to your schedule? And what can you get done faster? And so we play off those kinds of scenarios to understand what really is important to do now. How long will things take? What needs her attention versus someone's attention? Because that's a big thing that gets a lot of startup founders, is that everything is as important as everything else, and we have to do it all ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And neither of those things are true.
Out of all the, I don't even know if I'm using this term correctly, soft skills that a leader or a business owner should have, where does accountability rank among them, in your opinion, to become a successful business owner or a leader?
Accountability to whom would be my question back to you.
Good question. To themselves, maybe to themselves, because ultimately their responsibility to themselves, right? Obviously, they may have other people working onto them, but they have a duty to be an effective leader if they have other people, and so they have to have these they got to be they got to learn how to be accountable. Obviously, they got to have people skills. They got to have communication skills. Out of all those skills that one person should have, where does maybe discipline is the correct question, skill, like where does discipline fall under?
I think it's actually fairly low. I
Hmm.
think I think leadership is more important. Um, I think there are a lot of elements of discipline, accountability, and also parts of leadership that we can either use apps for or gamify or what have you, so that they're not as important as the ultimate soft skill of empathy.
Hmm.
Though I read an article this morning that the CEO of, I want to say Citibank, one of the big banks, recently referred to empathy as a hard skill, not a soft skill. And it has me thinking that perhaps Skills that are soft skills when we are earlier in our careers become the hard skills, become the important elements to getting your business, your job done. And the things that were once hard skills, your ability to code, become soft skills. The stuff that it's great to have because you can look through stuff, but it's not as important to actually doing your job.
Mm-hmm. Out of all the coaching clients that you've had, and you don't have to, name names, but kind of what's been your favorite outcomes that you've able to get for some of your clients?
I've seen a gamut. I've had my clients who have raised the funding that they've wanted to raise, their B rounds, especially after I've already worked with them through seed and A. That's always exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have one who went from, sort of having a business for a few years as a solopreneur and, bebopping along, but not really growing or doing anything with it, to now having multiple employees, actually supporting herself. She's gone through a divorce. She turned down the alimony. She can pay all of her own bills. She can pay her employees. She's not worried about her finances. So these are two very different kinds of growths, and both of them for both clients are thrilling.
Fantastic. So we're kind of coming to the end here, but before we finish out, we always ask some rapid fire business owner questions for our guests. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So who do you look up to?
That's a rapid fire easy one. My grandmother.
Okay. What's the best business book you've ever read?
Oh, it's a leadership book. I'm going to have to get you the name of it. Fantastic. Not one person in it is a business leader, recommended by a military leader. It's also not about military. So I'll get you that name. It's a fantastic book, but I'm not thinking of the name right now.
All right. What's the best business advice you've ever received?
Keep showing up.
Showing up. If you could do one thing over again, what would it be?
Take out life insurance on my former business partner.
Yeah. So you lose everything, and the only thing you have is your laptop with the internet connection and a cell phone. How do you rebuild your business in 30 days?
Start emailing. Start DMing.
What is the biggest challenge in your business today?
Time.
Time. Are you familiar with the term 3 feet from gold?
No.
Okay, so the story goes, there's a prospector and he buys a piece of land and he buys all the equipment and he digs, doesn't find anything. So he ends up selling his land and his equipment to the next person. That person only digs 3 feet and they hit a very large vein of gold. So for business owners, how do they know when to pivot and how do they know they're just 3 feet from gold?
Talk to your customers.
All right. And finally, what's the best thing that you've spent $100 or less on that has improved either your personal life or your business life?
I just got a dog for free, so I'm going to go with the new dog for the cost of gas up to my friend's house.
All right. Jodi Lasky here, accountability and productivity coach. Hey, if we want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do so?
introvertfounder.com. And for your listeners, I'll have a special landing page up at introvertfounder.com/intentional entrepreneur, where they can download my Agile framework for accountability, which is not a lead magnet I usually give out, but I'm going to give it to your readers.
Thank you so much. We'll put that link in the show notes. Thank you again so much for your time and hanging out with us. And I hope we can talk again soon.
Thanks.